5:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on into a Friday. It is July 11th, and I hope you are doing well. Dan here, along with KGB, and Jay Harper is in for Joan Jones. She'll return on Monday. I thought this was interesting. Jessica Tarloff from The Five, right, on Fox News, she said something yesterday. I think this was yesterday. And I thought that it was rather, what's the right word? Inflammatory would be the right word, I think, among other things. But she was, engrossed in a conversation on The Five. And I want to play you what she said. Basically, what she's saying is that ICE detention center staff are sexually assaulting the illegal aliens inside of these ICE detention centers. This was on The Five. Listen close. Need some audio, KGB.
What is going on with this immigration policy is not what people showed up on November 5th for. I know there are some folks out there are pictures of those grannies that had those signs that says mass deportation now.
What about you bring up something as charged as sexual abuse?
Yeah.
Who is causing the sexual abuse? Is it the people running the detention center are raping the detainees?
You've never heard of that happening, or they're
abusing them? Because I want to be clear that that's what you're alluding to.
That's what the report
So
said.
People that are running the detainee center are sexually abusing.
I don't have video of what was happening. I just know that they are seeing an increased amount of 911 calls saying that people
Biden ran.
What an idiot. Can I just say, Jessica Tarloff, come on, man, you're on Fox News. You are on The Five. And so if you're going to bring that kind of an accusation, then you better darn right well bring the receipts. And she didn't. And so I had to go and I had to find the report. And so the only thing that I could find, and by the way, I am not saying that over the years this has not happened. That's not what I'm saying at all. Of course it happens. But what she is saying is that I'm going to paraphrase now, is that since January, since Donald Trump took over, there has been a massive increase in sexual assaults in the ICE detention centers, and the people that were assaulting the people inside, the illegal aliens inside, were the ICE detention center staff. That's what Jessica Tarloff is saying. And yeah, that is inflammatory, scandalous allegations. And if this is happening, people really, to be honest, we should know. So I went looking for the report, and I did find a report. This is from Wired.
Regional 911, what is your emergency? You speak Spanish? No, ma'am. I understand English. I need help. Ayuda.
A Wired investigation into 911 calls from 10 of the nation's largest ICE detention centers found that serious medical incidents are rising. Since January, these facilities have made nearly 400 emergency calls.
Right. You know why that is? It's because there's a lot more people in these detention centers, folks. Of course, you are going to have 911 call, whatever it is. Of course, you're going to have calls that are going to 911 or whatever, because there's a lot more people in these detention centers. Do I have to tell you this? Tarloff chose to focus on these allegations of sexual assault because, she's a leftist, right? And so everything that ICE does is evil. That's ultimately the position of the left. Everything ICE does is horrendous, and everything that the Trump administration does is awful, and they're the Gestapo, right? So that's what she chose to focus on. But nowhere in this Wired report, and by the way, you can find it on my social media, at Dan Mandis Show, find me on X. And so Tarloff, she focused on these allegations of sexual assault, accusing staff at these centers of sexually assaulting those being held. Well, listen to this.
Cardiac episodes, seizures, head injuries, suicide attempts, sexual abuse. Experts say the real number of medical crises inside the walls of these centers is likely much higher.
So in other words, this was a report. If this is what Jessica Tarloff is saying, if this is the report, they're talking about a wide array of issues that have been going on inside of these ICE detention facilities. And so she sounded, and I just played you the audio, she sounded utterly confused. It's like, Jessica, you are surrounded by conservatives on the 5. Yeah, you are definitely outnumbered. And you got two of the best. You got Greg Gutfeld and Jesse Waters. So if you're going to make those kinds of allegations, girlfriend, you better bring the receipts. And again, she didn't. Oh, I don't have the video. Well, what do you have, Jessica? Because if you're going to make those kinds of scandalous accusations, then you better have something more concrete than what you did. Because she didn't. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this is because members of ICE, members of law enforcement are getting attacked daily. And it's this kind of rhetoric that is instigating it. Here's one more audio bite from this report, and nowhere does it say that the staff en masse are assaulting people inside.
The system is stretched to its limit, and to cope, ICE is offloading detainees into federal prisons and tent-like camps, while issuing no-bid contracts to private prison giants like Geo Group and Core Civic. Dispatch records show how fast medical crises spiral inside these overcrowded remote facilities.
Well, you know what? That's what happens when you come here illegally. And by the way, I'm still saying, and everybody knows this, that the vast majority of people that are getting busted are the bad hombres. And so when you are the likes of Jessica Tarlev, when you are the likes of any leftist out there that continuously is calling ICE the Gestapo, among many other things. I mean, you've got the Gestapo, you've got, the usual Nazi, Hitler, all that kind of stuff. And then they're not saying anything to condemn the attacks on ICE. Well, then it's not really shocking when we see what we see. Like, for example, did you see what happened yesterday in Ventura, California? You got ICE that show up, and they're showing up at a kind of like a farm out in Ventura. It's, I guess, northwest of Los Angeles. And so ICE shows up, and they're looking for, bad guys. They're looking for people that are working on the farm that are either illegal or maybe even perhaps, some sort of child trafficking ring, because we've seen that happen on these farms as well. And so these ICE officers show up, and then, of course, there's a massive standoff. There's video, of course, of one of these bad guys, shooting at ICE officers. And then, of course, there's more video of these guys that are hurling big rocks at these ICE vans that are trying to leave. And so part of the discussion this week, and I don't want to redo yesterday's monologue, but part of the discussion today and yesterday and this week has been how you have all of these folks on the left that are using this really hyperbolic language to inspire these kinds of attacks. Did you hear what a state senator said in Nebraska? We're going to talk about that straight ahead. It is 5:15 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Jay Harper has the traffic. Jay, what's up?
Yeah, Dan, we do still have that crash. It was reported, about 30 or 40 minutes ago near the airport, Harding Place at Donaldson Pike. And still, folks in Brentwood having to deal with some road work there that's left only one lane open on Concord Road westbound past Green Hills Boulevard. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jay. As far as your weather today, high of 92, scattered thunderstorms. On Saturday, a high of 94, scattered showers as well. And on Sunday, a high of 94, thunderstorms in the evening. And we'll keep you posted on all the weather coming up here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So a state senator in Nebraska just talking about the nasty vitriol of people coming, folks on the left, directed at ICE. Hours after MS-13 kingpin on El Salvador's most wanted list was arrested in Nebraska. We told you about that yesterday, right? Yesterday in Omaha, Nebraska, El Salvador's most wanted was captured. He had taken part in 5 murders in El Salvador. He was at the top of their most wanted list. He's just hanging out in Omaha, Nebraska. He and another guy from MS-13 hanging out. So that's who ICE got, right? Nebraska State Senator Megan Hunt calls ICE Gestapo thugs and wants them to be stopped at every opportunity. This is what she said. This is on social media. State Senator Megan Hunt. F ICE and everyone who supports them. These thugs are America's Gestapo, our modern national shame, and must be stopped at every opportunity. Regardless of the fact that they just bagged a guy in Omaha, Nebraska, who was on El Salvador's most wanted list after taking part in 5 murders. Do you see how crazy this is? Do you see how absolutely insane this is on the left? But this is what they're doing. And this insanity, no doubt, is going to continue. One more, just to show you, and then I'm going to move on. But one more. The attacks on ICE, of course, what happened in Texas, where you had 10 or 11, it looks like it was more than just 10 of these folks are saying they're Antifa. Other people are saying trans-Tifa because 2 of them were trans. So you know the story. They try to lure the ICE agents out with fireworks, and then they come out, and then they attack them, right? And so total ambush. Do you know now that there is a give, send, go for these guys that attacked, ambushed these ICE officers? One local law enforcement officer was even shot in the neck. And now, yes, they are supporting them with a give, send, go. So you go to the page, right? They're asking for $20,000. Migration is beautiful. You go onto the page. Migration is beautiful. Okay. Well, be that as it may, you had 10 people who, by the way, were not migrants. These are, basically white dudes. And they had all their weaponry, and they shot at ICE officers. Has nothing to do with migration. This has to do with attempted murder. So migration is beautiful. Support DFW anti-ICE protesters. And they're asking for $20,000. They say, on the night of July 4th, local police arrested 10 people outside of the ICE Prairieland detention facility in Alvarado, Texas. They say, we don't know all of the circumstances leading to the arrests. We do know that popular outrage and resistance to deportations is growing across the country. Well, here's what we know about the circumstances leading to the arrests. They tried to lure ICE agents outside of the facility, and they did, and then they opened fire. I mean, I don't know what else you need to know. So they say organizers, activists, and affected communities have spent the year organizing rallies and protests outside of detention centers just like the one in Alvarado. They say the 10 people arrested on July 4th currently face serious charges aimed not only at ruining their lives, but signaling an authoritarian criminalization of dissent and protest against ICE. Local authorities have set bail at $10 million per person. I mean, you want to talk about, what's the right word? Out of context. So the reason their lives are going to be ruined is because of what I just said, because they lured ICE agents outside of the building and then opened fire on them. That is why they are their lives are going to be ruined. And this isn't signaling an authoritarian criminalization of dissent and protest against ICE. No, not at all, actually. But when you try to murder law enforcement officers, whether it is local law enforcement or, ICE and federal, then, yeah, you know what? Your life is going to be ruined. And by the way, they're lucky they weren't shot dead. But just to tell you how insane this is, they're asking for $20,000. Do you know how much they've raised? Is $14,168. And so leftists, they're lining up. They are. Man, they're lining up to give money to these people who tried to kill ICE agents. It is sad. It is unbelievable. But it is also something that is very consistent with what the left has been doing really since January when Donald Trump was sworn into office and the mass deportations continued. It is 5:22 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, so KGB, have we figured out, this is what's been going on behind the scenes?
Aha.
Your humble host overslept a little bit this morning again.
Yeah, well.
So we have completely shanked on really the one thing that we try to do well every single morning is the Daily Dan poll. And I couldn't think of one. And Jeff, apparently, I tasked young KGB, the producer of Nashville's Morning News, a lofty position, by the way, that has a lot of responsibility.
Yes, I understand.
With coming up with some sort of a Daily Dan poll. And have we come up with anything in the 25 minutes since we started down this road?
I'm trying to think of an ICE question, but it's hard to I'm trying not to have a 99-1 kind of question.
All right, Jay, what do you got?
Oh,
you got any kind of a Daily Dan poll question? See, the problem, what happens is I end up, throwing a bunch out at Jeff, and he's like, we did that last week. We did that yesterday. We did that 3 days ago. So here's the deal. If you can think of something, Jay, you'll be the hero of the day. And I'm going to open up the super text line right now, 615-737-9986. If we want to crowdsource maybe a suggestion for the Daily Dan poll, then that would be super duper terrific. By the way, watch us on YouTube, Facebook, 99.7 WTN X, and now Jay on Rumble.
Rumble.
You hear that
Let's
we're
get
on Rumble
ready
now?
to rumble.
It's very exciting, actually, that we are now on Rumble. So I think you go to 99.7 WTN on Rumble, and you can watch us there. At last check, Jay, you know how many people we had watching us on Rumble yesterday? I think it was 2.
The highest was 12.
The highest was during this show?
Well,
highest was 12?
It's a new platform. It takes a little while to
it's new to
get
us.
going.
It's also hard to find.
New
apparently.
to us.
People had difficulty finding our channel.
All right, so real quick, how many people do we have watching us on Rumble right now? I'm going to let Jay, let's see who can guess it. I'm going to say, Jay, we've got 2. How many do you say we have on Rumble?
At this time of the morning,
sure,
I will say 5.
Okay. Jay's got a lot more faith than I do.
Well done, Jay. 5 is the number.
Wow. Jay, did you somehow cheat?
No,
Are you on Rumble?
I don't even know how to get to Rumble.
RUMBLE.
Right.
All right. Hey, Jay, what's coming up in the news?
Well, the president visiting Texas today, and perhaps, Dan, you could come up with some sort of question regarding that for the Daily Dan poll. But anyway, also ICE raids continuing in California, but as you've been talking about, Dan, not without confrontations. We'll have those stories coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.